What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this is Bull Season 4, Episode 7, Doctor Killer. Another really good episode, honestly. And I wasn't really sure what to expect going into it, just based on the original premise that we were shown with this mother obviously very sick, cancer, and she gets experimental drugs, she ends up dying. I don't know. I was just like, where's this going? Are they going to sue the doctor? The episode's called Doctor Killer, so is he like killing his patients and they're going to want to try to put him in jail for it? So the fact that it turns out that the son is the one that killed him and the uncle's trying to protect him by admitting it, but of course that doesn't work. I don't know. It was a very interesting setup for the case, and it was one where, yeah, I was invested. It got me really interested and really engaged in what was going to happen next. Yeah, I don't know what's up with this season, but I feel like they've got in some really good writers for these episodes because a lot of these cases are really sticking with me, and they're doing a good job of making me get invested real quick. So yeah, really really a fan of the case for this episode. I like how it ended as well with the kid getting up to be able to testify and finding the courage to basically say, I regret what I did, but that doesn't mean I'm guilty. Like it's a pretty poignant line as well because sometimes you do stuff and you do regret it. You know, that doesn't mean that it's necessarily your fault because sometimes you do things and you don't realize that it's going to end up being a bad thing. So, yeah, I like that line. I feel like it's very necessary for a lot of our daily lives. But then, just the fact that it all works out in the end, I'm happy. I'm glad the kid gets out okay, which of course, most of the time that's going to happen anyway in a show like this. Like, you're going to get the good ending, but, it was just a really good setup and good delivery as well. The ADA as well in this case, I thought was a good foil because it wasn't like he was some dickish prosecutor. Like, he was just doing his job and really trying to hammer home his point, which was this kid coming up, he goes in with the intention to hurt the doctor, because of what happened with his mom. And I feel like they really showed that he's not necessarily trying to, I guess, be a jerk about it, but also he's willing to do what it takes. Like, he's willing to use some of Benny's tactics as well, which Benny, of course, throws back in his face. So I don't know. I like the little bit of back and forth between the two of them. It wasn't as much personal connection between the two because sometimes you'll see like Bull and Benny talking to the prosecutor outside or the defense attorney outside of the courtroom, and you'll see a little bit of a back and forth there. This one, the back and forth in the courtroom was really a lot more engaging than I think any back and forth outside of the courtroom that they could have had. So that was also fun to watch. I don't think there was anything with Marissa in this episode. I don't think there was any, like, at least not that I can think of. But Chunk's story, we did see him being there for his daughter after she, went to talk to the doctor. And again, I think very, very well written in the sense that it feels like this is kind of a natural thing that would happen. Chung disagrees with her. He thinks this is a bad decision. He's going to try to convince her every step of the way. Nope, this isn't what you should do. That doesn't mean he's not going to love her. Doesn't mean she's not his daughter. Doesn't mean he won't be there for her to comfort her through this whole process either. So, and I really like this story because of that. I like how they're not saying anybody is right or wrong. It's just you're showing a daughter and her father and what they're going through as she's navigating this tricky situation that she's stuck in. So yeah, I don't know where it's gonna come out. I don't know like what the ending for her story is gonna be, whether she decides to keep it or not. But whatever the case, I think at least so far the journey to get to that end, whatever it is, has been very well done. It's been enjoyable, and I think they've done a good job of writing it and making it very realistic and very not necessarily relatable for everybody because obviously I'm not a dad and I don't have a kid either, so it's that's the same thing, Mason. If you're not a dad, you don't have a kid, obviously. No, but what I mean is I can't have a kid. Like, physically can't have a kid. Birth one, I guess would be the correct term to say. And obviously I don't have a daughter who would be stuck in this situation, so it's not like I can relate to this story. However, it's still very heart not heartbreaking but heartrending, like you're just evoking the emotions, I think. So, yeah, all in all, very good episode, and I'm actually really looking forward to seeing where the rest of the season's going to go, because so far it's been really well done. So, on to the next episode. I'll see you there. And now, episode 8, Safe and Sound. Whenever I heard this episode title at the beginning, my first thought was, if they don't play Safe and Sound at any point through this episode, I'll be disappointed. That was the last thing on my mind by the end of this episode. Whoo! I mean, I had a sense. It was one of those weird, again, because I've watched so many shows like this, and I kind of get a sense of where the formula might be heading. I kind of had a sense that maybe the younger son had something to do with it. But I don't know. I don't think I realized it was going to be something along the lines of he's a murderer. I assumed it might be something like he thought it would just be cool to put a bullet in and shoot at something, and it just was unlucky that the brother walked in right as he was taking the shot. So to find out that he's a sociopath and killed his brother in cold blood was definitely a twist I was not expecting a show like Bull to take, because I don't know, I just don't expect that kind of dark topic to be talked about on a CBS show. Because again, the CBS shows are typically a little bit more lighthearted. They're typically a little bit more kind of up in the air. You don't have to think too hard. You don't have to really get into the emotions. But man, did they really go all out for this episode. So I gotta say bravo for going all in and saying, nope, we're going to have the 13-year-old be the killer, and he's going to know what he did because he's a sociopath and a pathological liar. And I will say the only thing that maybe was a little bit lackluster, probably because, again, we're on a CBS show, is the parents' reaction. I feel like there would have been, in most other shows, especially ones that do delve into deeper topics, I feel like there would have been a little bit more talk about what do you do. One of your sons just killed your other one in cold blood, and he's a sociopath, and he's been wanting to do this for months. What do you do if that happens? I mean, I feel like that would have been discussed maybe a little bit more. We might have seen their reaction when their son was being arrested, but I'm guessing CBS a little bit more, I guess, conservative when they're showing, I guess, the darker, grittier stuff. So don't want to show a kid being arrested. But I feel like that scene with him being led away and the parents' reaction would have really driven this episode home and made it just fantastic. But again, probably not something that CBS is going to show. But still, just the story itself, I mean, it was one of those, I was already along for the ride. I wanted to see this father, essentially find, I don't want to say get away with it, because it's not like he's getting away with anything. It wasn't his fault. But just essentially see the father be okay, be able to go back to his family, because more than likely he wasn't going to be responsible for this. But it ended up being a lot worse than I thought it was going to be. And I just talked about in the last episode, most of the time you expect the episode to end on kind of a happy note, like, we did it, guys, we won the day. But in this one, it's like, yeah, we won, but at what cost? And that is not something that I was expecting to see at the beginning of this episode. So, yeah, very, very good episode overall. Really got my attention, and probably one of my favorite episodes of Bull as far as I can remember. I don't remember any of the episodes really from before this season, but this one really is definitely the top of the list so far. So if the rest of the season is almost as good as this, I'll be perfectly happy, because so far it's been really, really fun and really enjoyable. And then this one made it a lot more real and a lot more impactful. So, yeah. Trying to think if there's anything else outside of the case. Obviously the ADA, talk about her as well. That one may be the most lackluster part of the episode, just because it felt like she was going very hard after the dad, and we didn't really get a sense of why. And then at the end of the episode, Bull, he did the whole yawning test, and she yawned too. So I don't know if he was trying to find out if she had some empathy, and she did. So it does sort of beg the question: why was she attacking basically the father in this case? Why was she going after him so hard, despite the fact that he seemingly did check the gun, did remember firing all 6 bullets? So clearly, it's not like it's his fault. There was probably something else that happened that he's unaware of, and yet she was so convinced that he was responsible. So I was wondering if we were going to get a reason for that, like, maybe she had a family member that was very loose with their handling of weapons and got one of her family members killed because of that, so it was more personal for her. Or maybe she's just somebody that really cares about kids, and so just she had herself convinced that the father was responsible, even if the evidence and his testimony pointed away from that. She disregarded all that because in her mind she had already convinced herself of that. I don't know. And that's something that I feel like the episode sort of glossed over a bit. So yeah, something that probably the only part of this episode that wasn't solid, but everything else I thought was really well done. The wife's reaction as well, I think, very reasonable whenever she finds out that essentially the dad wasn't really, I guess, keeping track of everything per se. And just this idea that he did leave a bullet in the gun, because how else would there have been for the son to shoot? Yeah, I think how they handled a lot of these reactions were really real and well written too. So yeah, I think that's about it. There was a small scene with Bull and Izzy, not too much to it. We see that she's very nearly going to have this baby. Like, she's been very pregnant for a while now, so I wonder when that's going to be happening. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to happen next. So on to the final of these 3 episodes. I'll see you there. And finally, episode 9, The Flying Carpet. So another good episode, very interesting one as well, just because of kind of the whole setup and feeling like there's no real good guys in this situation. But I like how it ended, though. I liked seeing that basically the worst person out of everybody involved, she's the one who sort of had to pay for her actions, which felt very necessary. But yeah, I think this really showcased the messy part of the law, where technically, yes, this kid doesn't get any money. Based on the letter of the law, he should not be getting any money. It's sad, it's tragic what happened to him, but the business is not liable for him ignoring all of their signs, ignoring all of the stuff to get up on the roof and be there and then fall off the roof. Yes, the pizza maybe not most structurally sound, but also it's not meant to be sat upon. So it's like, the pepperoni falling off and hitting the guy in the head, that is on the business because they didn't build it well enough. But him sitting on the pizza, well, that's not what it's designed for. It's not supposed to have people sitting on it, so it's technically still the kid's fault. But of course, in the eyes of a jury, they're going to want to find that the kid was not liable, that the business should be, just so the kid can get some money to pay for treatments and all the medical expenses. So it's kind of a weird case, and I like the fact that our team is on the other side, because I feel like it would be pretty easy for them to be like, yeah, it's a kid in a wheelchair. We've got this one, no problem. So the fact that they had to defend the business, now granted, I do think it was important that the lady from the insurance company, Cress, I did think it was important that she decided to leave the case. I thought that was a really good touch, because now we really do care if the business loses the case now, because now it's all on them, since the insurance company is essentially leaving them high and dry. So that was a nice touch to add a little bit of tension, because throughout most of the episode, I was kind of thinking, I don't really see winning or losing as a problem. If they win the case, cool. I'm sure they'll still find a way to get the kid some money, like whether it's from TAC or whether the business is like, yeah, we'll help pay for the medical expenses even if the insurance company won't. And if they lose, well, it's only the insurance company that pays, and that's perfectly fine. It doesn't affect the business at all. And I don't like the insurance lady, so yeah, that's okay. So throwing that little bit of tension in, I thought was a nice touch. Um, I also liked just having the fact that the attorney on the other side wasn't necessarily that good either. Like, it would have been so easy for them to just go full on, like, we're working for the bad guys if the kid was like the sweetest kid. He told the absolute truth. He accepted responsibility, but people still wanted to give him money because it's a kid in a wheelchair. If the attorney was like this angel who's just like, how could you not want to give this kid money? But I thought it was kind of a little bit more, you weren't really sure how to feel about the case once the kid gets up there and it's like, he's lying, isn't he? Like, if the owner, I feel like the owner would have known to not tell kids, hey, that's not good enough, look for a better shot. I feel like he would have remembered having that type of conversation. So having the kid lie shows that he's not a perfect kid, shows that he is willing to lie to make himself look better. And then the attorney is also, she was one of those, I'm holier than thou because I'm fighting for a kid in a wheelchair. Very condescending attitude about it. So it made it a little bit harder to really judge, okay, am I supposed to feel bad for this kid? Like, everything says I should because he's paralyzed, but it's almost like they're trying to make me not feel as bad for him by throwing in these little touches, where the attorney's kind of a jerk and the kid is lying on the stand. Like, there's things that make me wonder, is there something else going on here? Now, granted, it didn't end up being some conspiracy or anything like that, but it did have me asking a few more questions than I normally would in the scenario that I was given. So I really like those touches, and I feel like it made this episode a little bit more interesting to follow, just to see what's going to happen. Like, is there something else we don't know about? I don't know, but I'm excited to see more. Let's see, what else? I think that's about it. I don't think there was much else on the outside of this case. Like, there was no personal life stuff going on, which I do find a little bit weird, just because we've had so much of what's been going on with Marissa and Chunk and Bull. We've had something almost every episode, like whether it's Bull and Izzy, whether it's Chunk and his daughter, whether it's Marissa and her now ex-husband. So in this episode, I don't think we got any of that. I think it was solely focused on the case itself. And it is a little bit weird that we're kind of taking a break from that, because even the last episode wasn't like anything progressed. We just saw some scenes of Bull and Izzy being together. So I don't really know what's going on with that, why they decided to take a break, but it's thrown me off a little bit. Like, I still enjoyed the episode, but I was really enjoying how they were handling the personal lives of all the team members this season. So I'm a little disappointed they've shied away from that now. But I think that was basically everything for this episode, though. It was thoroughly enjoyable. I had a lot of fun with it, and I do wish we could have gotten to see the ending when everybody sort of comes together and we see the reaction, from the kid and his mom, from the owners of the business. I don't think the ending was bad by any means, but I feel like there was a little bit of a lack of closure because I wanted to see everybody go, oh, cool, we're all getting what we want. We're not having to pay, they're getting money. Cool, I'm glad. But I do wonder, basically because this is a fictional show, obviously, I do wonder, like, how would that be handled in real life? If I were a small business, if I owned a small business, and some kid did something stupid and got himself seriously injured, not my fault at all, kid totally he was responsible for his own actions and he did something really dumb, got himself hurt, and I were in this business's shoes, what would my reaction be? Because, they clearly didn't have $2 million to give this family, but at the same time, I feel like most people, I forgot to talk about that one scene because I thought that was also a nice touch. They even showed the business, like, why are we in court? Like, didn't we get insurance so we could give money to people like this? And I feel like that would be most people's reaction is, yes, it's the kid's fault for being dumb. However, it's on my property, at the very least. I do want to help because I don't want this kid to be suffering and his family to be suffering financially because of it. So, I don't know, just kind of an interesting thought process to have of like, what would you do in this situation? So yeah, all in all, good episode, good 3 episodes. We're almost halfway through the season, and I'm still having a really good time. I was not expecting this at all. Yeah, cool. So, with all that being said, though, let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on these 3 episodes? Let me know what we can talk about and discuss, all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future bowl reviews, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.